On this episode of Whitetail Cribs, we're bringing you part 2 of this week's episode with Scott Buckley. In this video, we'll bring you along as Scott shares some of the bucks he's hunted over the years and piles of sheds he's found near his farmhouse. If you missed the first part of this mini-series, be sure to check it out after this video. And if you want to help us out, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe.
The Exodus team is traveling around the United States to take a look inside the trophy rooms of some of the most interesting whitetail hunters in the country. From giant bucks, unique racks, and riveting stories, welcome to Whitetail Cribs.
Welcome back, guys. This is Scott Buckley. This is my farmhouse in southern Iowa, part 2. This is where I do a lot of my hunting down in here. Okay, we'll start out living room. Got a lot of deer head sheds, a lot of shed stories, a lot of good sheds. I'll start out here with, this was a buck we had on my farm a couple years ago. He showed up late season, towards the end of season. Nice double drops. We really didn't know he was here till like after the end of season, so we really didn't get a chance to hunt him. But we kept an eye on him, watched him with cameras, and tried to, was waiting for him to drop. And we finally, he dropped late March or something. Found one of his sheds right here down the road on the road. We looked and for the other side for a month or so. And I asked a neighbor for permission to go check out their cornfield, and there it was laying in a little grassy swale. But so we was all excited about the following year, because he appeared to be a really old deer. And he went way downhill, and his body condition looked rough. This is him the following year. The dog actually ate the tips off the tines. They're real light phosphorus horns or something. I don't know. He wasn't the healthiest deer, and he was really old, but he went downhill, and then he went offline this year. I don't know if he died of winter kill. We had a lot of winter kill or EHD this summer. This is an antler we found out here last winter. That was a nice buck that was hanging around. I was hoping for him this year, turn into a giant. We did have a really big deer show up muzzleload season that was very similar main beams, but didn't have the tall brows. So I'm not sure if that was him or not. If that wasn't him, it could have been EHD kill. I'm not sure. We lost so many deer. And here's a deadhead and my hot girlfriend that we found over in the state forest. DNR come and put a salvage tag on it. We'll go out and look at it afterwards. Really nice big 8-point. That was an EHD kill too. Great big pot. Most of these sheds have come off. Probably 3/4 of them come off the farm here in the last 4 years. I've owned this place. A little story on the farm. I've owned it 4 years now. Hunted primarily public land for years. Shot some amazing bucks on public land, and I was getting to that age, and my dream was to have a piece of property. And finally, I paid off my other home, and I got this piece of land here, and it's been a dream come true. So that's that. But yep, those are a lot of sheds. Probably 3/4 of them I found on the farm the last 4 years. Some pretty nice ones. I found that one out there the first year. That's nice side. That was a buck I shot first year. Not really high scoring. It was the end of the season, and the neighbors had told me they had history with him. He was a 5-6-year-old deer. The body really don't show it in this, mount. I mean, it's big body, but my pictures, he was one of the biggest deer I probably ever shot body-wise, and they said he was probably a 5-6-year-old deer. And these are the grandson of the people that got the place off here. They give me this horn. They found it out here, and then I compared it to these ones. My dad was out 3 years ago shed hunting. These are the biggest sheds I've ever held. I mean, the weight on them is just massive. My dad was shed hunting not far from the house here, and He walked up on them, and actually they were attached to a deadhead. One was laying there, and when he picked the other, it fell off. So he was in the, process of dying or shedding when he died. But it's too bad. I would have loved to hunt him. Just a massive old deer. Didn't have him scored, but he had to go in the 170s, I would guess. DVD collection. I've been a freak about hunting movies and just hunting in general. Ever since I was a kid, I have the VHS tapes from Monster Buck 1, 2, all the way through. A lot of them are scattered in different places around the house. It's just a little, we have hundreds of them. A lot of my friends say I'm obsessed with hunting. Of course I am, but I got a heck of a collection. This is, in last week's episode, I dealt with a lot of 2-year-olds in my basement that I started on in Michigan and Ohio, and I had some nicer ones there, but this is my first one I got that was a decent scoring rack. I think he was 147. I actually got that one officially scored. That's probably the only one I ever had officially scored, but 6x6 got in Kansas on public land. Big shed we have here, one of my bigger sheds. I think it scored about 80 inches. We found this, me and a friend of mine, Steve Noble, and we had this dog out. His dog brought it up to us. It was pretty cool. This was a public land buck, Iowa, a few years ago, middle of November, rut hunt. He come into a stand, and most of these bucks, I mean, that's a 3-year-old, 140-ish buck. This is another public land buck. Found his sheds the year before. You can kind of see, put him up there. Still got the little kicker. Just got a little more mass. And yeah, there's a few bucks on public land. I found their sheds and ended up, hunting them. I knew the deer. I got a pile of sheds over there. I'll show you that. I followed that buck 7-8 years. Okay, this is, we call him Wounded Foot. Second year on the farm, he was carrying this rack here. I just look at it, it don't look the same, but because the following year, I was looking for, a buck with 2 brows. And, we noticed this year, go back, he had a injury. His foot was twisted. He'd limp a little bit, but you could see the front foot was twisted, so that's where we gave him the nickname Wounded Foot. So yeah, the following summer, we was looking for a buck with the 2 brows start showing up on our cameras. We didn't see it. I was sending pictures to my brother. Sent him a picture of this one of the nicer ones we had on the farm, and my brother picked it off. He goes, "Look at his foot. It looks twisted like the one last year." And I blew it up, and I said, "Wow, that's him. I'm looking for this." And actually, he lost a point over here, but he gained that little turkey foot thing over there. Got quite a bit bigger and heavier. And here's another shed we found last year, public land. Just a dandy. I never scored it, but he's heavier than that 80-inch one I touched on a few minutes ago. So I'm guessing, it's chewed up pretty bad, but he was over an 80-inch horn. Probably, he would have easily been a mid-70s, 170s buck, if not more, probably close to 180 typical. He had the sticker there too, very similar to that other, but 2 different areas. A couple fox, was just talking about the trapping. This fox I got in my younger days in Michigan, snared both of them one year. Got the red fox and the gray fox. Oh yeah, I'll touch on my boy's buck real quick. This is a buck we called Homie. He was a home buck here. We had 3 years of history from when he was 3, 4, 5. He shot him a year ago, early muzzleload season. Right there he is. These horns got some stories here. This is a buck on public land. A spot I always drove by, but it was real close to a major road. Never thought much about hunting it. Me and the boy said, well, let's just go in there and see if we find any sheds. We went in and found that one a couple 100 yards off a major road. And the next day, a few 100 yards away, we found that side there. And we were stoked, and it was a spot I could hunt. So you talk about getting amped up for the following season. Yeah, starting out that next July, I just started hammering the area with cameras, and yep, we started picking him up, and actually his frame really shrunk. I think he was an old deer too. I didn't have much history, so I didn't know his age, but his frame shrunk way down, but he got a lot more, just a freak, a lot more junk to him. You can kind of see, that turned into a multi-tine thing, a second drop. Just started getting oodles of pictures of him. I had videos of him. I had pictures. I had 100 pictures of him. And I even, when I was checking cameras where I figured he was bedding, I was walking through. I jumped him out of his bed from 20 yards away and got to see him, in the velvet takeoff. And it was pretty cool. So, yeah, I was excited for hunting season. And I think I went out there opening day or two, waited for the wind to get right. I had quite a few stands. I preset some throughout the area and did a couple, moved some around hanging hunts and just kind of, I wanted to kill them. And hunted them hard through most of October, every chance I could get. And kind of November, I went a little bit lighter. Or actually, it was I had an early muzzleloader tag, third week of October. A friend of mine, I sent pictures to a friend of mine, Aaron Warburton from the Hunting Public. I sent pictures of him earlier that summer of this buck and showed him. Well, he called me towards the middle of October that year, and he said, Scott, we were out doing a observation set in an area, and we seen this big buck come out of this draw, and we were watching him and trying to plan a setup for the next day. And he goes, we got back to the shop and zoomed it in, started looking at it. He goes, I think it's the buck that you sent me the pictures of. And he sent me the video, and yeah, for sure, they had found the buck I wanted to kill. And Aaron said, do you mind if, we go back in there? I said, how about if I got a muzzleloader tag and I'm hunting, how about if we hunt together, we'll try to. We came up with a plan because they seen the mid-October, they're pretty patternable. We figured he was bedding up in this draw. So we came up with a plan. I had an early muzzleloader, and Aaron and his film guy, they came in from the east. They snuck along a waterway, and they got set up on the east side of this draw. I came in from the west and got on this knob where I could see, if he got past them guys, I could see him working this edge, and take him out with the early muzzleloader. So, yeah, we kind of put the plan into play, and I didn't see them, but they videoed me walking across the swamp area there and got set up, and we never seen them. And that's another cool twist to the story. I never found the other side. I think it was 2 springs later, I'm watching the Hunting Public posted a picture of them turkey hunting. I think Aaron called me or texted me first and said, hey, I think we found this one side to that buck. And I seen the pictures on Facebook, and Aaron sent them. But yeah, the Hunting Public, they was out turkey hunting, found the other side of that down in a gully, kind of where he was bedded that year, or that time me and Aaron was hunting. And he found them. They were covered in mud. They were buried in mud and in like a ditch. But yep, cool story to that buck. This was another 4-year-old deer here on this place. We called him Lucky. I passed him quite a few times. Probably 4-year-old deer. Had a pretty nice rack, but we wanted to see what he looked like at 5. And then we started getting pictures of him after season, and his whole front foot had a big knot in it. Just swelled right up, and I thought, man, I hope something don't happen to him. Never showed back up. And this is a cool buck on public land. We 3-year-old, 4-year-old. These ones, he was 5 or 6. I hunted him, had a lot of pictures of him over the years. I figured he was 7, 8 years old when I lost track of him. Just massive horns. This is a cool little 2-year-old we were watching out here. Actually, he's the one that I wounded this year, and we'll be out looking for him. So he was 2 there. And yep, got my bear here. Don't want to forget, this is the second bear I ever killed. I touched on the first one last week on my home in north of here. I got him on an Ontario bear hunt, bow and arrow. I've shot all 3 of my bears with bows. Smaller bear, but it was fun. Pictures. There's a picture. One of them years that I trapped 25 coyotes out here on the farm here. There was a picture of a bunch of them. I got that one. Like, I don't know, there was a week's worth there hanging in the barn. There's a bunch of them there. There's a big bobcat I trapped out here. Got a few bobcats over the last years here. The deer, that's a cool picture. I had a little picture last week on the episode, but that was a picture in 2015. We put all our deer on the barn, a lot of our sheds, and that was actually the buck on the pedestal from last week. He was fresh there. I just killed him, had him in the freezer. I've added quite a few bucks since then. Wish I could get another barn picture, but that's a lot of work. I mean, and now I got bucks scattered on 2 hours apart, and it's going to be hard getting them all together again, but a lot of memories there. This is a bathroom. Nothing special, but just a couple cool things. Got my sign here. Pretty cool. I've had that for years. Actually, and when I first came to Iowa, I had a rental. I had a deer head in the bathroom. A whole deer mounted deer head, but now I just got me a cool Euro mount in here. Couple sheds here. Found on this place. I think this was a 3-year-old. This is him at 4. And then found him this year dead 200 yards from the house at EHD this summer. These are some sheds we found so far this year. These 4 were on public land. We found quite a few more on public, but other people we were shed hunting with took them home. Nothing big this year yet on public. It's been a real weird year, especially up in this part of the country. EHD has just annihilated so many deer, but found these ones on the farm, just kind of out and about. That's what we're doing, our big shed hunt when we get this interview done, but these ones we just picked up on food plots. And this is one of the bucks we were hunting. He's a 7 or 8 year old deer. We call him Scrappy. I was just driving the quad through the property the other day, and it was actually hanging from a little sapling. It was pretty cool. It was about 2 foot off the ground and just hanging there. I was pretty geeked about finding it. We're hoping to find his other side today. There's another deer. This is a big deer I was hunting. Had a bunch of pictures of him 2 years ago. Public land. That's about all I'm going to say. Could be anywhere in southern Iowa. He was, we guessed, between 230 and 250. This year he went offline. No idea what happened to him. These are the 3 bucks I got last year. It would have been, I guess, 2018. Started out the year early muzzleloader statewide Iowa tag. We're allowed 2 statewide buck tags in Iowa, but being a landowner, you can get a 3rd tag. That's how I got 3. Killed him early muzzleload season, public land. Walked in. I was actually walking into my blind about a mile back. I was going back into an oak grove, and I seen him stand up on the edge of a waterway, and I said, holy cow, he's a good deer, and took about a 50-yard shot, and he ran. His tail was down, but I wasn't sure he ran across a waterway. I waited till the next day, took some friends in, and he didn't go far. We found him in there, and really cool. 160, a little over 160 buck. This buck, another public land, November 5th. Went in the day before, and seen him across. I was sitting in a stand in this big draw in the timber, and he scored in the mid-170s. Small frame, just lots of points. Huge brows, I think 10.5-inch brows. Ton of points, I don't even remember. He had 14, 15 points. I seen him the day before. I was sitting there, and we had a north wind that day, so I was set up for a north wind. He was across the creek working. Tried calling him in. He wouldn't respond to the call. So the next day we had a south wind. I took down my stand, relocated to the north side of this big drainage in the timber where I seen him come from. I set up there the following morning for a south wind. The wind was changing, And I'd seen a couple bucks past a 169 point that day because I knew he was in there, and usually I don't do that, but he was, I knew he was in there. So I think it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I rattled, and 3 bucks come down the hill. A 3-year-old 8-point kind of come running in behind me, and I said, oh no, he's gonna win me. Circled in behind me, and I had a ditch to my back, and I didn't think they'd come in behind me, but he did, and the 2 bigger ones were up on the hill. And I thought this 8-point's gonna blow it all for me. He got behind me, and yeah, he winded me, but I think with me rattling, the bucks just thought it was a fight going on because he kind of snorted and ran, and the other bucks are looking around like they didn't know what was going on. They're just all stoked up because of the rut. And the 9-point come down a little closer. He was within shooting range. That's that one I seen earlier that day. He was 25 yards. He was kind of cautious, but he spotted me up in the tree. I mean, I was sticking out just in a, small tree. But the big one was up on the hill. He come down within 45 yards. Finally, I think the 9-point run, and he was getting real nervous. He never seen me in the tree, couldn't smell me, but all the other bucks were spooked and running, and he started turning around to leave, and I thought, shoot, I don't like shooting this. It was 40, 43, 44 yards, I think. A little bit of picker brush in this area, and I tried a shot. Didn't know what happened. He kind of trotted up the hill. I didn't know if I hit him, missed him. He acted like I missed him, but I watched him run up there and disappeared. 10 minutes later, I said, what the heck, I'll try rattling again, see what happens. I rattle, and out of the corner of my eye, coming up the draw, like where that 9-point ran, here comes a buck just screaming into me, full bore after I rattled. And I expected it to be that night. I look, and it was him. He must have went up the hill, back to the south, and then down the draw, and then come burning into me. He was on a mission. He come in 20 yards, I think, maybe within 15. He turned, perfect turn, broadside, and then he stopped. He must have caught wind or something, because I moved a camera earlier. I took it out of the ditch. I sat all day. I pulled it out of the ditch and put it up on a tree in front of me. And actually, I had him on camera coming into for the shot. And yeah, he turned broadside, and I let him have it, and I watched him drop. He ran 80 yards, and it was pretty exciting. And then my landowner's tag, 2 days after Christmas, sitting out. I had some good bucks 2 years ago coming into one of my food plots, and it was a morning hunt. Usually don't hunt mornings in the late season, but we had 20, 30 mile an hour winds that night, and I thought if it's windy in the morning, I can sneak into this blind like 300 yards from the food plot, where hope to get them leaving the food plot on the way back into bedding. You can't go into a food plot really in the morning, at least not mine. Some you might have access, but the wind covered my noise, biking up the path. I had my quiet cat. But as soon as I got to the stand in the dark, all of a sudden a deer blows right under my stand. And I'm thought, shoot, I screwed this up. Because I had pictures of a lot of bucks feeding right at daylight in the morning, And I should have just waited till night. Here I got deer below, and I look, and there's about 20 deer leaving that food plot coming my way, and they're seeing me. I could just see them in the barely light. I said, I blew this. I mean, it's over. I shouldn't even did this. I said, my first thought is going to blow everything for tonight's hunt. I had Steve coming. We've been waiting all year for this, and I got excited, went out in the morning. And so, I proceeded to crawl up. It was a stand up in the air, a box blind I made, and said, I'm already here. Might as well crawl up in. Well, I could see, a lot of deer took off. I proceeded to sit there, and it was about 8:20 in the morning, I think it was, and I could see a couple bucks up in the food plot, moving around. One looked pretty good. 8:20, I look, and here comes this buck. I mean, just right down the hill, right into the draw. And then they hit that draw, and then they go back into the bedding area. And he came in 60, 70 yards that morning, and it ended up being an awesome morning after all. I played my gut, and it panned out. And, yep, I shot him, and same thing. He ran 30 yards and just kind of, went down, watched him fall down. Real exciting. That was my season in 2018. Okay, Not gonna kick you guys out yet, but we'll go out and look at all the EH deer we got. Hey, buddy. This is my grandson. He's the coolest kid in the world. Love him. He's gonna go out shed hunting with us today. Okay, these are all our EHD bucks this year. Just found this one kind of right out here behind one of the buildings. Nice little 2-year-old. This one I found out back. Looked like a 3-year-old. Great potential. They're kind of dark. I tried burying them to kind of rot. I'm trying that method. Rot some of the stuff off, and then we'll probably bleach them out. But beautiful deer. Here's that big one I showed you in the bathroom. 2 years of sheds. It was a shame. Just found him right up a couple 100 yards up the hill here. That EHD is just a horrible disease. Killed a lot of our big deer. This is one me and my girlfriend found up in the state forest a couple weeks ago. EHD. Big 8-pointer. Most of them I get my DNR salvage tags from them. And here's another one. We found this one right across the street in the ditch. He had good potential. Probably 3-year-old buck. All of them this summer, August period when they were dying. We found, I think, 6 bucks so far on here, and we're up to 20-some deer, 25 deer. We found that at EHD just on 240 acres here. And I don't know, we might find more today when we get back. A lot of that north draw, and I haven't even been up in the ditches yet, so we'll see if we find any more. Well, it's time to get the heck out of here and head out shed hunting, I guess. We'll talk to you guys later.